Hi, this is Jen from Thread Honey, and today I'm going to show you how to stitch the Folk Tattoo Collection embroidery pattern set. These patterns are available on my site as a PDF download, as well as a stick and stitch embroidery kit and a full embroidery kit. I'm going to start by transferring my patterns to my clothing item. This is using the stick and stitch transfer available on my site. Because this transfer is sticky, I can pull it up and reposition it as I need to, but you'll find that if you reposition it too many times, it'll lose its adhesive quality. I'm putting all three of the patterns on this shirt I thrifted from a flea market, but you're free to split them up and place them on 3 different clothing items. With the patterns now in place, I'm going to start with the flowers wrapped in ribbon. I'll place my hoop around the pattern and start stitching. I'm using a 5-inch hoop, so I'll be moving the hoop around the pattern as I work on it. On this design, I'm going to be using all 6 strands of my DMC number 310 embroidery floss, so I don't have to worry about splitting the strands. I'll thread my needle using the embroidery floss and create a knot at one end. I'm not going to tie the ends together. With my needle now threaded, I'm going to stitch this design using the back stitch method. I'll start by pulling my needle from the back of the fabric through to the front. Next, I'll create a small stitch. With my needle now at the back of my fabric again, I'll go a stitch length distance away and pull the needle through to the front. Then I can pull my needle back and try to get as close to the end of the first stitch I made. I can then pull the needle through to the back. I'll repeat this process going a stitch length distance, pulling the needle through to the front, and then trying to pull my needle through to the back at the end of the previous stitch. This is the technique I'll use as I move my way through the pattern. You can go in whatever direction you want. There's no clear pattern. I would just suggest that you try to not pull your needle too far away when you're at the back. So you want to stay working in the same area as you make your stitches. I have a full backstitch video if you're still confused about this method that I'll link to below. I'll show as I complete this area of the ribbon using the backstitch. Once I'm done with this area, I'm going to tie a knot in the back and then move on to another area of the pattern. To create my knot, I'm going to grab the thread with both hands and create a small loop. Once the end of the thread is through the loop, I'll place my finger on top of it and then pull through with my left hand, leaving a knot. I'll then use my scissors to cut as close to the knot as possible without cutting the knot itself. With the ribbon now done, I can work on the flower stems. Again, I'm using all 6 strands of my DMC number 310 embroidery floss using the backstitch method. To reposition the hoop, I'm going to undo the screw at the top to loosen it, move my hoop to the area that I want to be stitching on, and then place the outer hoop on top of it. Anytime you're doing embroidery, you want to make sure that your fabric is nice and tight in your hoop. So you can see that I'm pulling at it just to make sure that it's really taut. To embroider the teacup, I'm going to use all 6 strands of my embroidery floss to do the outline of the teacup, and then I'll use 3 strands of the embroidery floss to fill in the hearts. I'll be doing all of this using the backstitch method. I'm tying off each individual heart shape just because you don't want a lot of excess thread on the back of your design. It's just more likely to snag, and your stitches will be more secure if you tie them off individually. On the heart design, I'm going to show you how you can use the chain stitch if you want to opt for that instead of the back stitch. If you are using the chain stitch, we're going to split our embroidery floss from 6 strands into 3. So we'll grab our skein, separate 3 strands and 3 strands, and then pull apart. Now we can thread our needle with our 3 strands and start the chain stitch. Starting from the back of the fabric, we're going to start at the bottom point of our heart and pull our needle through to the front. Now we can create a small stitch. With our needle now at the back of the hoop, we're going to go a stitch length distance and pull through to the front. Our needle now at the front, we're going to slide underneath that first stitch going horizontally on top of the fabric. We can then pull our needle all the way through, and we're going to place it where we just pulled our needle through to the front, pulling the needle now to the back. Again, we'll go a stitch length distance, pull a needle through to the front, slide it horizontally across the fabric underneath our last stitch, and then pull our needle back into the hole we just came out of. So over time, our stitches will resemble a chain, which is why it's called the chain stitch. If you're still confused about the stitch technique, I'll link my video where I do a more in-depth process. I'm also going to use the chain stitch on the stem of the flower, again using 3 strands of the DMC number 310 embroidery floss. I'm going to use 3 strands of my embroidery floss as I continue stitching the heart and heart details. You can see how it's a lot more delicate than when using all 6 strands. So you're free to switch it up, use 3 strands, use 4 strands, use 5 strands. That's the beauty of embroidery, is it's super individual and you can put your own personality on things just by doing things like switching up the thread color, switching up the stitch techniques, and stitching up the amount of threads that you're using. This is what your designs will look like after you've completed your stitching, but before you've dissolved away your water-soluble backing. To remove your water-soluble stabilizer, I recommend taking your entire item into the sink and placing it under warm water. You can use your hand or a toothbrush to remove away any of the stubborn stabilizer. You want to get all of the stabilizer completely off your item and then lay flat to dry. And here's what your embroidery designs will look like after they're done drying. Thank you for watching. If you're interested in more embroidery patterns, tutorials, and kits, you can visit my website at thethreadhoney.com. I also have embroidery supplies available. If you have any questions about this particular design or any stitch techniques, you can leave them below and I'll try to answer them.